Hello, amazing you. My name's Campbell. This is Spiral Up. Thank you for joining me. Hope you've had a marvelous day. And today I wanted to talk about connecting to source. Connecting to source. Now we hear this term a lot: source energy. Connecting to source. So what is that? What does it mean, and how do we do it? So, to start with, source is, it's the energy. It's people call it by many different names. God, Allah, Krishna, nature, Gaia, the Great Spirit, the One, all this kind of stuff. It's basically all the same thing. It's the energy, the creative energy that binds and animates all things in this reality down here. So it's obviously intelligence to it as well. It's not just a random energy, but that's basically what God, or the source, whatever it is, the creative energy. That's what it is down here. It's the creation, and in us, that is our imagination, because that's how we create, right? We create things in our mind, and we have to create them in our mind first before we can create them in, the physical world. So even if you're building a chook coop, or a garden, you first have to visualize in your mind what that's going to look like before you can start work. You have to see where it's going to go, so this is how we create. This is a creative energy in us, which is, the creator, right? And so we're all, holograms of the creator. We are all pieces of the whole, and we contain the whole. So how do we connect to this source? So this is, it's quite an easy thing, but it's something that we've been taught not to do. And of course we've been taught that, all this kind of stuff, right? Listening to your inner voice and getting, information from the universe, and guides and spirits and all this stuff, spiritualism, tarot, astrology. We've all been taught that it's crazy and it just doesn't mean anything. But of course, we know who's taught us that, right? The people who hide everything, the whisperers who whisper, in the ears of the rulers and destroy nations, and then, steal everything, steal all the knowledge and take over. And this is what they do. And so it's only through, their stealing of the knowledge and keeping us ignorant that they are still in power. So bit of a side note there, but so we're not taught, to connect to source, and that there's more, and that if we need to fix things, that the answers are inside. We're taught the opposite, that it's all outside. So to start with, when we get information, or when we're talking to someone, we're taught to judge, and we are taught this, right? We're taught everything is good or bad, right or wrong. This is a good person, that's a bad person. Stay away from these people. So, it's not like people come up to us and say, judge everyone, but what we're taught, it is basically judgment. We're taught how to think and how to see the world when we're children, from parents, peers, school, all this stuff. So, we are taught that when we, come into new information, that we should judge it as right or wrong, good or bad. Now, what that does is that cuts out any chance of, God, let's call it God, of God coming in, because you've already decided the start point and the outcome, the income and the output. You've decided, right? And in the middle of that is the ether, God, and this. So and this is how I do these videos, and this is sort of how I've you sort of learn from everything you do. Everything is a lesson, right? This is why we're down here. It's all to teach us. So when I do my videos, I only come up with a word or a sentence or a phrase. And then I just hit record and start talking. I don't write things down because I don't want to, be structured. But what that does is if you're structured, you're writing the input and the output, so the start point and the end point, but you're also filling in the middle point with all this detail. And if you then go and read that and like a script, then you're cutting out any chance that God can come in. And and in this instance, God is the information, right? The wisdom, the Akashic records, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of you can talk to a lot of people who do this, and they'll make a video on it, and when we watch it back, it's like, oh wow, I said that. Where'd that come from? Because when you have a start point, right, and that's it, then you allow you've opened a space for God to come in, right? For that energy, that information to come in, because you're not expecting anything. You're just starting, and you start speaking, and it's like it opens a, I don't want to say channel, but it opens a link, and then you flow, and then it's really weird. You just come to a point where it's the end. It's not like it's not like I say it's a 15-minute video and I talk, and then at 4:55 it's like I got to stop. It's just this process. And another way that I got this is I was talking to what is he, like a electrical engineer, and he was talking about spark gaps, and he'd made a motor, and this video is on my Autodidactic channel if you want to check it out, and it's actually a Tesla motor. It's a design that is attributed to Tesla, and a lot of people have tried to make this motor work, and no one can get it to work. And it's a step-up motor, a pulse motor. So the theory is you put in a very low voltage, and at the other end you get out a very high voltage. But no one could get it to work properly. Some people got a little bit more out of it. And this guy, he put a spark gap in there. Now, what a spark gap is it's the same thing, right? It's a start point, an input, and an end point, an output. But in the middle is a gap. It's just like a spark plug. How you have the gap. Now that gap, and I've talked about this before in the way we think and the way that we talk, and that's what's between judgment. It's the gap. That gap is the place that you allow that energy in. That it's the same energy. It's still the God energy, that ethereal energy, and so he got it to work. He put in a spark gap, and he can trickle in like low voltage, and I'm talking like a quarter of a volt or probably less, and at the end he'll get more than 240 volts, but there's no explanation of how it works. If you look at standard electrical engineering, because they obviously don't they don't talk about the ether. That's not in the equation. But what he's worked out is it's the ether. That spark gap allows universal energy, whatever you want to call it, the free energy that we know is in the atmosphere. We know it's there. It allows it to come in. And so it's that energy that's stepping up the engine. And then you get more than two. He says at the end he's got to step it back, because he gets way more than 240 volts out. Now that engine will revolutionize when this gets out, but of course it can't be solved. We've just got to make these on our own. We know what corporations do, but the point is the spark gap, right? It's the gap. That's it's the God gap, right? The same in our thinking. So when we judge, we cut that out, and we're not connected to source. It's when we go along, and we live in the moment. We have intention. But everything, it's just a start point. We shouldn't be thinking of endpoints, or, and it's also like when people talk, and you talk to someone and they're not listening, they're sitting there thinking of what their next, of what the response is going to be. And so they don't hear the conversation. So they're cutting that out. So it's really being in the flow of just not expecting anything, trusting, having a conversation and just not expecting an outcome, seeing where it goes. Trusting yourself as well, not thinking too much about what you're going to say, just be in the flow and talk, see what comes out. You'll be surprised. Same with everything. Same with, if you're writing a book or poetry or writing anything, let yourself go. and getting to that beta mind wave. And same with, with meditation. Don't have an outcome in mind. Just go into it and trust that you're going to get what you need. And so this is how we connect to source. It's, once we put that endpoint on it and we define where it has to go, then we're not in source. We've lost it. We're back in the 3D world, in the physical world, because that's thinking that it's up to us to move physical things around to make change. And you can live like that. It's just a lot harder, right? Energy, the God energy, spirit, it trumps, the physical world every time. So it's to do with, exactly, not expecting not having, not expecting a certain outcome, not expecting a certain outcome from anything that you're into, whether it be a conversation, whether it be, playing music, meditating, building something, even building. That's why you look around, everything's the same, right? All these boxes, but every now and again, someone will go out and they'll just build out of their imagination, and they build amazing things. I mean, look at the past, right? Look at the buildings from the past, same kind of thing. Of course, they're a lot more structured, but to create those buildings, they are all different. They're not, no two are exactly the same. And this is what you get when you tap into imagination, right? Which is the God energy. You let that come in and inspire you and give you information that's out in the field, in the Akashic records, whatever you want to call that. It's all out there. It's like when we go through, life, and for me, this is getting, sort of more and more blatant all the time, is, when I learn things, it's much more like I'm remembering them than I'm learning them. And the reason I say that is, when I learn something, it's literally the next day. If I think about it, to me, it's like I've always known it. Once I know it, it's like I've always known it. It's not like, oh, I learned that yesterday. I can't, in my mind, I can't define, it was definitely yesterday that I learned this. I'm like, hang on, no. So it's a remembering process, right? Because we're all connected, right? We're all part of this ether, the source, or us. We're all part of it, not necessarily everyone in this realm. But, all of us that are connected to source. So all that information is there. And we, we really have been here before, right? There's only the now. There's nothing, time's just an illusion. But down here, there's time. But in the bigger picture, in our higher selves, we've done this before. So we're just remembering. And this is what's opening up, in this great awakening. Everything's changing. We're starting to understand that we're so much more connected. We are part of that field. We are part of the field. And that's actually something else that I wanted to get onto, which is talking to source, talking to the field. Now, we are creators. We are, the creation, but we are fractals of that creation. So, we're holograms. We contain that creation energy within us, the whole. So the whole is within all the fragments. That's what a hologram is. So when we speak things, when we think things, we're putting that into the field. Let's call it the field, right? Into the field where all the information goes. Now, this works in a few different ways. So we're all in our own little worlds, and what we think comes back to us. But we're also part of the whole, part of the one down here, part of, I don't want to say collective, but part of the whole source energy field. And so when we think, as well as it coming back to us directly, it goes out into the bigger field and affects, the realm more directly. So, if we have more people thinking bad thoughts, then, collectively they create a bad world. If we have more people thinking good thoughts, blah, blah, blah. Right. So this is why they have propaganda. If they want to start a war, they just can't start it. They have to have all this propaganda and, make, the other side evil and all this kind of stuff, and give all these reasons why they have to, fight this war to keep people safe. because they have to get everyone on side and to put that energy into the ether, into the collective field to make it happen. Because, we know, right, these people in, so-called power, the powers that want to be, they're not connected to source, and source is imagination and creativity, so they can't create. They need to, hijack our creativity to do that. And so this is in everything we do. So when we speak, we're speaking to the field. We're putting it out there. Now, the field, God, it doesn't understand negatives. It doesn't know what no means. It doesn't understand what a negative is. So if you're putting out negatives, it only understands. So if it's like, I don't want this, it doesn't hear the don't. Why does this always happen to me? I don't want to have, I don't want to be broke. The universe hears, it doesn't hear the don't. I want to be broke, right? So we've got to speak what we want. We can't speak in negatives, because every time we speak in a negative, we're just getting back what we don't want. And that's how we spiral down, because then we go, I said I don't want to be broke, right? More, spiral down. So you just got to change that, and it's also got to be in the now, because time doesn't exist, right? Especially, for the field, for God, there's no time. So I'm wealthy now. I always have what I want. Just these little changes. And that's also a high vibration thing, just saying those two different sentences, you can tell one's negative energy, one's positive. And so this is why it's important, to speak positive. One, you'll make your life better, you'll get better things back. But two, in the bigger picture, you make the world better. And this is why everyone at the moment is talking about, heart-centered and loving, be loving and raise the vibration. You're hearing it everywhere. And this is why, because we need to be the majority of energy being put out. And that's how this all changes. Once we're the majority energy, then, we control it. Everything changes. And now this is, the Archon knows that this is happening. It knows it's lost. It's just trying to create all this, confusion and destroy as much as it can on the way down, because it's the opposite of love, right? It's the opposite of creation. It's destruction. So this is, speaking to the ether. So complaining about where you are is you're literally asking for more of the same. So we've got to stop complaining, all this complaining, and it doesn't just have to be, this sucks, why me? In the bigger, why is this happening? Oh, all these sheep, why aren't people changing faster? All this energy of why don't I have the perfect world now? It's not ever going to bring that perfect world now, because one, you're not speaking in the present, so it can't come back, right? The present is a gift, right? Well, the now is a gift. That's why they call it a present. Complaining is just putting out that I can't do it and things are out of my control into the ether. And this is what's been going out there for so long. And of course, you get enough people to put out, I'm not in control. Why is this happening to me? This sucks. Well, then it makes it easy for, people with nefarious plans to come in and say, well, I've got the answer. Here it is. Just follow me, right? And how often do we see this? So, yeah, be very careful what you speak to the ether, because everything you say, everything you think, it's not just, it means something. It's not random. It's not just nothing. It means something. And what it means is you're telling, the ether, whatever you want to call it, the simulation, right? God, whatever. You're telling it what you want, but it can only hear the positive. It doesn't hear the negative. And so many people just speak without thinking what they're going to get back, make decisions without thinking what the outcomes are going to be. And then they get annoyed at what comes their way. But once we understand that we are the only ones that can create this, no one else, your neighbor who doesn't like you can't sit there and think, bad thoughts about you and bad things happening to you and create that. They will only happen to him, to your neighbor or her. So this is, no one else is doing this. It's you. Okay. And if you think it's not, just spend some time with your thoughts, because you'll find out that behind, there's a back, there's a subconscious thought as well. So you got to get to your base thoughts, because so many of us have a program running over the top, this ego thing of, oh yeah, I'm doing all right, I'm always right, everything's good. But in the background, it's like, it sucks. Well, I'm broke. Oh, why don't I have a good job? Why don't I have my perfect partner? Oh, how do I get out of this? That's what we've got to change, that running program. And this is the program, right? How they program us. But we can change it. We can change it. And once we change that, everything changes, because that's what holds our self-image. And our self-image is our base, vibration, our energetic signature. And so everything we do is, because the only constant is change. So everything we do is affecting that energy signature, that what we're putting out, and that affects what we get back. And like I said, it affects the world in a larger scale. So I hope I explained that well. But that's what I wanted to get across is, definitely, be careful what you speak, and understand that everything you speak is going out there, and it's all coming back to you. Everything you write, everything you sing. And this has been, a lot of us have been thinking about this recently with all these, musicians, singers coming out, saying things about Bill's prick and how you have to have it or you can't see them. And when we start to look at their lyrics and what, stage shows and all this, the symbology that they were using, we're starting to understand that was a program too. We've seen it in pop music. It's been very blatant for the last sort of decade, but we're now seeing that this was, in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it was all there. Of course, back then there were some good bands that were getting away with it, but the big ones that were promoted, I mean, now they're saying, look at Twisted Sister, right? We're not going to take it, but now unless you take it, you can't see them. And what did they do? They spent their career, turning men into women. Kiss, same story, and they were up on the stage, a devil and a star. I mean, so perspective, right? The veil is lifting. So everything we speak goes into the ether and comes back to us, and the way to to really connect to that ether as far as letting it in, because this is the thing, right? When we speak and thinking that we're putting it out there, but we've also got to let it in, which a lot of people don't do. So that is just letting go, trusting, not having, not defining everything. It's like, so the spark gap in the circuit, right? It's got to have that gap, and then energy can come in. When we're speaking to people, if we're judgmental, then we're just in our monkey brain. As soon as we let that conversation go and trust ourselves, it can go anywhere, and information, interesting stuff pops out, right? It all comes out when we don't judge and when we don't define things. So it's all about trusting, and trusting that you are, you are God, you're part of God, you are part of the creation. So trust yourself that everything's in you. You've got all the answers. If you don't know them now, then just be open and they'll come. Ask for the answers and they'll come. And when you ask, don't define. Don't define what the answer has to be. Don't define when it has to come. If you're asking for a block of land, with a little house on it, don't define it too much. See it in your mind, what you want. You might want a creek and an acre and whatever, but don't define when that has to come. Don't define exactly where it has to be. That's up to the universe. You just tell it what you want, and it'll deliver. So it's not really a fine line. Like, as far as, you should really get that picture as defined as you want. But like I said, you can't, say, give it to me on this date and, make this person my neighbor and make it in this state. Maybe not even in this country, right? You don't know. This is the thing. You got to be open. There may be things that you have never thought of that are much better. But if you're defining, well, this block of land has to be in my state, the problem there is, one, you're putting yourself in a position where you're not open to possibilities. Because like I said, there could be a much better block in the next state, or something completely different and so much better in a different country. Who knows? And when you define that, then you miss that, right? If you're only looking in your state and defining it has to be there, then you're not going to get, the best thing that the universe can offer to you. So there you go, connecting to source, trusting, opening yourself up, and also speaking to source and seeing that it's like breathing, right? We put it out, we get it back. We put it out, we get it back. So understand that that's how it works. We're swimming in a sea of energy, of intelligence. We've got everything we need. We just need to tap into it. And it's all inside us. The connection is inside us, heart-centered, right? So there you go. So thank you for spending some time with me, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one, connecting to source. Please give me a like, subscribe. If you haven't already, share this content around if you think it'll be valuable to other people. And of course, look inside yourself as always, because there is greatness in there. Also, you'll find links below for some Spiral Up merch, some t-shirts, Spiral Up, Humans Win, things like that. So check them out and purchase if you wish. All right. Thanks again for joining me. Have a magnificent day. Love you all, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.